Oh, happy! Hi, everybody. Hello, my lily pals. Wow. Hello, hello. Yeah, it's fucking me. Ain't that crazy? We're gonna do things a little different tonight. I don't really have any intention of doing really much of anything. I'm here for, I'm here just to chill, hang out, chittin' and chatting with y'all. Cause, like, I wanted to stream, but, like, I didn't actually want to do anything. So here we are. And before I forget, boop. There's a wifey. And boop. There's a boyfie. I actually, had to add these, assets into this scene earlier today while I was setting up, because apparently I never thought to, include any of the stream frogs aside from the defaults onto this scene. Have you ever played Frog Fractions on stream? No, I haven't. Also, hello, Maple. I have kind of a handful of frog games I could potentially stream in the future. I know, was it you that I mentioned, was it with you that, like, there was mention of Caro Blaster from the same creator as Cave Story? I know I've been playing a little bit of that, or I played a little bit of that. I know I also have, oh, what were they called? They're on my Steam. Ba 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 ba. Frog Song and Frog Gun. Frog Song is one. Obviously, you play as a frog and you have a tiny little knife. And then Frog Gun, yeah, is a low poly puzzle game, I think? And it's very cute. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, tonight we're just kind of vibing. Kind of letting the conversation topics come as they go. Luckily for you, there are numerous games in the Froggyverse. Hell yeah. Frogs everywhere. They don't call us an army for nothing. I sadly still don't have much in the wake of beverages. There's still some fruit punch left that I've been able to mix in with my water tonight. But that's starting to kind of dip. I might have to raid a little stash that I know is like in one of the kitchen cupboards. Biggest fan of a nice cool glass of water. For me, I think ultimately it depends on where the water is coming from. Or... yeah. Because, like, tap water tastes different depending on where you get it. As far as the tap water that we get here in my house, it's kind of meh. It does oddly combo well with the fruit punch, though. And then over at my grandma's, like, she lives a little closer to the city. Like, I think that's the kind of flavor I find actually, like, really refreshing. People don't realize that water is very sensitive. Add a little salt and it's absolutely different. Oh, totally. I think I heard before, like, I think it's mostly coming from neurodivergent people, or like people on the spectrum, or like usually normal people would say, like, water all tastes the same, you know, and then the autistic people are like, no, it doesn't! Wow, that me. Wow, me too! I gotta be careful how much I drink at one time, though. I think it was literally last stream where I had literally the same thing, and it was so refreshing. I kept drinking it all the way down until I think there was no more left for for me to use to take my drums with. Life is just realizing that your body is a piss factory. I can't talk now. I'm making piss. Let me see. I know, last night... I know I've mentioned on stream before, but on Thursdays, I usually join my friend Animoyan Arts Discord server for a movie night. Damn it, Issy, why if you stream at the exact moment I should be working on my math homework? You know I'm not doing that shit! What are they watching today? Last night we watched the Blame movie. That was on Netflix. It was 3D animated. Came out in, what, 2013? Math teacher in the house, do your homework, it's good for your brain! Thank you, Boyfie. We watched Blame. I think overall our consensus was meh. Meh. It wasn't terribly inoffensive, but wasn't anything particularly groundbreaking. I think probably the highlight, for me, was the tall robo-women. You absolutely can't match the manga in that sense. I get the impression of that. I think only Dizzy might have read the manga. No, he didn't. He saw the movie before, that's what it was. Yeah, sorry. We know how much queers struggle with the numbers. Thankfully, Thankfully, Jay is a rare breed. We also followed it up with the ONA. It came out in like 2003. And, you know, while there wasn't nearly as much substance, it definitely was visually a lot more interesting. Jay is hard carrying the world of mathematics for queers, and I love them for it. Yeah, I think the ONA in total was like a little over 30 minutes for each episode. Minisode. It kind of... Something that kind of stuck with me was when we were having like a little pre-movie convos, just kind of chatting, hanging out, talking in our movie seats while the previews and commercials are going on. I heard Blame's World as kind of described as... Like, it is very clearly post-apocalyptic, but it's almost as if it was a post-cyberpunk post-apocalypse, which is really interesting to me. It's like, you know, it's a setting where humanity is on the brink. I think it was mentioned, like, at least in the movie, there were only, like, this colony of, like, 400 and something survivors. And they all subsisted from rations conjured by Lego bricks. Imagine Girls' Last Tour, but gritty cyberpunk. I know somebody mentioned Girls' Last Tour. I think it was Fluffy. It was mentioned at some point. I haven't actually seen it myself. There's a lot of anime stuff that I haven't yet seen that I want to. But I know there's also still a handful of anime stuff that's listed in our movie night schedule. I think some of them I want to watch every anime, but sadly I am only an eel. Yeah, let's see. Just going through what all is left in the movie night channel. Interlude, Golgo 13, Escaflowne, Macross Zero. I think I remember watching one Macross movie. I'm not sure if this is the same one. Hanato Alice, Warao Hyoteki, Yokohama Kaida Shikiko. I can't even begin to know what some of these titles translate to. Toaru Hikushi Eno Tsuyoku, Unkai no Meikyu Zegui, all caps, Zegui. Kido Senshi Gundam F91. We still haven't gotten to, fucking Goku locked in the time chamber for millennia and betrayed. There was a point where, some of us some of us were just kind of adding in like certain like little specks of YouTube slop for movie night, and that's one of them. Hi, cookware! I'm talking about anime. Oh, you get to sit on the bubble tonight. Eh. Quit snapping. There we go. Okay, so Goku locked in the time chamber. What else? Does Dragon Ball Evolution count? Thanks, surface tension. I know Solaris recommended the first Ninja movie. I don't know if that counts. Like within the anime sphere. Oh yeah! And then I recommended the current entirety of Toho, A Summer Day's Dream. Sadly, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, is he? I mean, I know that's Pythagoras' theorem, but like, what was that responding to? Or is it just like a general comment? You're doing your math work. I see. So you were just you were just casually lamenting out into the void. Only if A and B are the legs of a right angle, or a right triangle and C is the hypotenuse. Yeah. Damn you, Pythagoras! Oh yeah, we also have a Dirty Pair the movie lined up. Barefoot Gen? I think I might have watched that with Solaris in Solaris's server. Yeah, we have Barefoot Gen in our movie lineup. Tracks on Asphalt? Oh no, that's a Soviet animated picture. Oh yeah, and then we added the live action The Girl Who Leapt Through Time after we watched the anime movie. Because apparently it's a prequel based on the original book. Hey guys, let's have a nice Christmas movie. Let's watch Grave of the Fucking Fireflies! I think Annie has something in particular planned out for Christmas month. Just like we're prioritizing horror movies for last month. But as long as it's November, we're spinning by the wheel. Garden of Sinners, I think this looks like an anime. Tokyo Babylon? Is that it? Oh no, Gunbuster. Yeah, Gunbuster is the last one in the recommendations. But if you're curious what else we have, the very first one is Song of the Sea. Fantastic movie. I love it. I know Solaris watched it a little bit ago in their server, but I had to miss it. One of my recommendations was Maradonia, the Shadow Empire. Because I know we were looking for some bad movies to recommend. Oh, I can't wait for that night. That's gonna be miserable. Oh yeah, I also recommended Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves, which apparently they've seen in the server already, but you know, they didn't care if I recommended it and we watched it at some point again. Monkey King Havoc in Heaven, another animated thing. I'm not sure it counts as anime. I've actually watched that one with Solaris, and it was actually pretty good. Very stylish. Tenacious D in The Pick of Destiny. Bubble Bath. I wonder if that's another, like, Soviet picture. The Secret of Nim. Classic. Bubble Baths! Goat Story, The Old Prague Legends. That's a 3D animated one. Zodiac, 2007, with Jake Gyllenhaal, Mark Ruffalo, Robert Downey Jr. Here for Blood. Interface, Part 1. Fluffy recommended that one. The Thief and the Cobbler, Recobbled Cut. I love that movie. I love the Recobbled Cut. Oh yeah, and then the one... the one that the wheel decided that we're gonna watch next week is American Psycho. That'll be fun. Mac and me! Oh, The Room. Can't go wrong with The Room. Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Yeah. Who Killed Captain Alex? I can't wait till we get to that one. Modern Pat Bateman. Cool with the anti-Nintendo remarks. Tommy Wiseau certainly went wrong with The Room. And aren't we all thankful for it? 9? I actually have that on DVD. It's been a while since I watched it, so I'm not sure what my impression of it was. The setting is definitely cool, though. The original Star Wars trilogy, that'll probably be like a longer movie night. Or no, unless we do like one movie at a time consecutively. Like New Hope one week, Empire the next, Return of the Jedi after. Didn't expect you to go over the whole list. I thought I might as well. Like, I already listed all the anime entries. I thought, just to see, you know, what all we're in for. The Dark Tower. That's based on, like, a Stephen King series, isn't it? Escape from New York, 1981, with Kurt Russell. I think, if I remember right, if I remember right, like, somebody recommended that one Specifically because, like, the main character is basically just Solid Snake. Iron Man Rise of Technovore. Oh, actually, the person who recommended that is no longer in the server, so I don't know if that one counts. Reality Bites, a 1994 Ben Stiller movie. Apparently, that's a recommendation from Fluffy's mom. An episode of Nova was recommended. How to Create a Junk Food, 1988. Oh yeah, and then one of my recommendations was Black Sheep. It's a horror comedy that I had a mild fixation on in middle school. And I've never actually seen it. I just know, it's a horror movie about killer sheep in New Zealand. Watchmen. John Carter, 2012. Battleship Potemkin, 1925. Damn. Ghost Rider. My recommendation for Ghost Rider came exactly after we watched a different Nicolas Cage film about 9/11. And we fucking hated that movie. It was so bad. It's like, not even Nick Cage could fix it, really. It's like we needed a different, more fun Nick Cage movie. So my first thought was Ghost Rider. And then a few horror movies we didn't get to. I recommended 3 of them, but rather than myself recommending them, I actually just served as a proxy of as recommendations from Trevor Henderson's Blue Sky. Like, anytime I'm looking for horror movie recommendations, that's probably like the first place I look. Because he's very vocal about, talking about, like, books and movies and media of the horror variety, and particularly what he finds to be quality. Which, considering his reputation, it's kind of hard to go wrong. I know, the one movie we did get to, it was an Argentinian horror film called History of the Occult, and it was really good. It was so good. I actually watched it ahead of time, but, like, it was hard for me to parse all my entire feelings about the movie the first time around, so it took a second viewing to realize, like, oh yeah, this is quality. This is Das Kino. But then the other 2 I recommended was a Spanish movie called Anguish from 1987. And then another one, a more recent one called The Outwaters. Some movies move different. They sure do. And then Fluffy recommended 964 Pinocchio. No idea what that one is about. It looks like it's Japanese. Oh yeah, and then I also mentioned recently, the past few Mondays, Annie has been kind of gathering a few of us together to watch the entire first season of Higurashi. and we enjoyed it. We liked it. I had to miss a few episodes because of Monday being a stream night. But yeah, it was just the first season though, so I don't know if there's any intention to watch the second season altogether, but what is in the plans is apparently a live-action movie adaptation of Higurashi, and that's also in the list. And then the final two in the list, Inglourious Bastards. That'll be fun. And Hero 2002, which apparently, like, recently has, like, come under some attention of, like, some YouTube video essayists or something about, like, what supposedly fascist movies look like. And, like, I'm not fully versed in this particular discourse because I've never seen the movie, but hey, I guess that's why it's being recommended. And that's all of them. I'm trying to think if maybe there are other movies that I recently watched. New movies. I think it's mostly just been through the server, being introduced to new media. Part of me thinks I might want to look into remedying that. Let's see. I can't immediately think of any new movies I've seen by myself, but I know there were a few new games that I gave a little spin. Not counting, of course, the new games that I played on stream. That would be Nightmare Cart, Carry On, Amnesia, which apparently, I don't just have Amnesia: The Dark Descent. At some point, usually through like the weekly, like Epic Games, like free game giveaway, apparently I got my hands on the sequel? Question mark? Amnesia: The Bunker? A much more recent addition to the series. I don't know hardly anything about that game, and that's kind of how I want to keep it. Because I know... Pretty funny that I forgot I had Amnesia. Oh, that's right, I got my memory wiped. God, there was a character that literally did that in the post game to Custom Robo. It's so stupid. But yeah, I was about to say, I want to keep knowledge about the bunker as minimal as possible, because one of my problems when I was streaming Amnesia is simply that it wasn't scaring me as much as I was hoping it would. Like, it had moments of stress, you know, 'cause, like, you know, it's mostly just because of the genre and the formatting. You know, you're a vulnerable character in that game, and you're not built to fight against the terrors in Castle Brennenburg. But I think just it seemed like there were a few layers of protection I had, and most of it came from the fact that the game is so old and so like so culturally like it's such a cultural standing point for the horror game genre. It's hard not to know about it. You know, from the millions of different YouTubers, big and small, that have played the fuck out of it. And I know there are also the custom games that you can download, like player-made stories or scenarios. And it's like, I'm really hesitant to kind of give credit or to try out some of those custom games, if only because a lot of them are just jump scare slop, you know? I love how Amnesia feels ancient while Ace Attorney is still kind of new, guys. Please let me not be old. Time is fuck. Time is soup. But yeah, like, ultimately, you know, having knowledge of the game, as well as, streaming it for an audience, I think, you know, it definitely gave me some degrees of separation between me and the game that kind of made it a little more difficult to immerse myself. Well, I'm not sure if immersion is quite the thing, quite the term, but it's like, I'm already aware of a lot of horror tropes and tricks, you know? Especially when it comes to movies or TV shows, it's like I'm desensitized to a lot of shit. You know, jump scares are not scary. They're just obnoxious. Ever play mouthwashing? No, but I hear very good things about it. It is kind of the reason I do give quite a few kudos to you should play mouthwashing. I'll definitely consider it as soon as I get an opportunity to acquire it. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, it's why I would also give credit to Spooky's Jump Scare Mansion. In spite of the name, there is more going on than just the jump scares. Like, the jump scares, like, you know what to do. Yeah, probably, the funniest thing about that game is that the jump scares are, like, completely... they're just completely nothing. The bulk of the actual jump scares in that game are of cute little fluffy, like, ooh-fied, bits and baubles and critters of Halloween persuasion, with only, like, one exception. There's, like, one, like, actually scary face thing. But even that, it's like, whatever. What the fuck ever. And so anytime it happens, you know, I'm not scared. I'm not even really surprised. I just gotta chuckle. the jump scares in that game are like me saying "boo" on screen. Yeah. Saying it very adorably. Gah! And then, like, the actual, like, monsters and the different encounters in that game. Again, they don't necessarily scare me, but I do give a lot of kudos in that they wear their inspirations on their sleeve. Well, most of them. I think the slime guy is just kind of his own thing. I'm not sure about the giant centipede. I know there's that one ghost girl that like is based on I think it was Misao. And then I also mentioned like one of the later monsters is literally a shout out to Amnesia. It was the siren. Shout out to the water beast. That was fun. I know the siren's AI is a little less complicated than the one in Amnesia. The water creature in Amnesia, like, you actually have to distract from your position by throwing shit in the water in the distance. And, like, oh, that's cool. I like that. But yeah, it's like, I really like the game for being more than... I mean, it literally... The title is literally Jump Scare Mansion. It's like, how can you be mad at that? It's like, it knows exactly what it is, but also it's kind of hiding shit from you. Like, it's actually hiding the good shit. Me when I scare you? Oh! Anyway, I was talking about new games. I think there are a couple, like, smaller, like, little, indie games. I think they were both made by the same person. One was more, like, a bit closer to an arcade experience, and then the other one was leaning a bit more into, like, horror aspects. The first one was Mini Thief, and then the other one was My Big Sister. They're both, like... They're almost kind of like RPG Maker sort of games, but not quite. I know they're stylized, like, in a very, like, like, they're very stylized in, like, a simple, like, pixel kind of, like, pixelized format. I'm hesitant to say 8-bit because that refers to, like, color palettes. And, like, clearly, you know, there are more bits going on than just 8 in that game, in those games. But yeah, Mini Thief is literally, you're just a guy, breaks into people's homes and businesses and tries to steal shit without getting caught. But also there's a level that's based on Friday the 13th. 32-bit? 16-bit? Probably 32. And then My Big Sister is a bit more of, like, a story experience with a few more, like, puzzle elements. Kinda similar, in some ways to, like, Escape the Room. I haven't actually finished that one. And then Mini Thief, it's like... It's very much, like, just a casual play, like, you can... I'm pretty sure there is a finish, but, like, he can easily just pick it up and drop it at any time. Yeah. I definitely do want to explore more, You've been gaming? A little bit. Or just looking at gaming. I've been gaming a little bit. Yeah, there were like a handful of games from the same developer. Mini Thief, Big Sister, and then I think there's another one I have called Red Bow. I think that's another one that kind of leans into horror a little bit. Which I was just about to say, I'm definitely interested in exploring some more horror games. Both on stream and not. My only question is, how am I gonna divvy up the ones that, I play privately versus in a live stream? The worst thing is getting paid every month and a half because I want to play Metaphor now. I think that's ultimately kind of an advantage that I have, is that a lot of like brand new releases to a lot of stuff just don't really faze me nearly as much as it does for a lot of people. I have somewhat like frugal tastes. It's like, either if it's a good enough game that captures my interest, then then I'll definitely wait. I might definitely wait to get my hands on it. I think the most recent exception to that was Monster Hunter Wilds. I was fully ready to purchase that when the full release came out. Because I wanted to get ahead of pretty much everyone else just yapping and yawing about it. Before I actually had a proper chance to try it out. And so far, I think that was... It wasn't a totally positive move, but I think overall it was a net gain. It's like, it didn't change the fact that it had a bunch of criticism, but, like... It's like, I wanted to, make up my own mind before, I ever heard about what anybody else thought. Metaphor is a year old now? Well... That's also kind of another thing I do. I don't keep up with, like... I just don't keep up with that shit enough. With, like, the broader, gaming community or industry. Well... I pay attention to the gaming industry as far as, like... shitty business practices and fucking, whatever crimes against wallets that, Nintendo is doing, or, like, however many ways that, like, Ubisoft or, I think recently Rockstar is fucking over their workers. Monster Hunter World is kind of new, right? Wouldn't be nearly 10 years old or something crazy like that. God, there's a Toho meme for that. There's a character, Sanai, who is actually associated with frogs to some extent. And like, she's a huge nerd, huge geek, but because she came from like our world into the world of Toho, Gensokyo, like roughly around like the mid-2000s, she's literally like cut off from all like the updated like newer consoles and shit. And so the meme is literally like, what? No, like the like the Sega Genesis is like the Sega Genesis and Nintendo 64 are like retro. Like the PS2 is still new. God. I remember... I think I might have mentioned this on stream. Also, I'm dropping frames like crazy, so... I might disconnect any moment now. Maybe. Possibly. But I remember... I love how even that meme is out of date. The PS4 is still new, the DS is still new, only the N64 is old. Yeah, that's the joke! It's kind of like the Internet Explorer meme. Where it just gets funnier with time. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, I might have mentioned in some stream a while ago. This was probably sometime around like 2006, 7. Don't worry guys, the PS5 is still brand new. Looks at 5-year-old console. Around like 2006 or 7, I was 11 years old, and one game that really got my attention was Jaws Unleashed for the PS2, and I wanted it so badly. You know, I remember crying to my mom about, you know, how much I wanted to buy it and try it out. And I literally made a list of reasons as to why I should get it. It's a rated M game, so she's doing the responsible parent thing and saying no. You know, that's not appropriate. Although, fact of the matter is, I already saw some of the gameplay, and that's what drew me in. And so, you know, at the end of it, what I ended up doing was I wrote myself a note. I wrote myself something of a little note in a little tin box that literally, like, I literally wrote to my 18-year-old future self. Hey, future Issy, buy Jaws Unleashed for the PS2. You know, now that you're old enough. And I think it wasn't until... Oh gosh. I want to guess it wasn't until like maybe like 2022 where I was like 26, 27, where cause One thing I forgot to mention was after I wrote the note and put it in the box, I told Mom to put it somewhere where I could never find it. And so she did that. And, you know, X number of years later, she rediscovered it. I opened it up, read the note, and I'm like, oh, that's cute. That's cute. Thinking the PS2 is still in vogue. Buy Jaws Unleashed and send it back to me. The funny thing is, I actually have it now. I actually have the game. But if memory serves... Yeah. I might actually reconsider it, but, when I got it, I actually put it, like, under my, I put it under my, my games to use as Let's Play material. But honestly, I think I might change my mind. So I might stream it one of these days. For your sake, I hope it's an underrated gem. Do I dare look at the game reviews? Do I dare look into IGN? Do I dare check Metacritic? Metacritic is for games, right? Yeah, it is. No, I'm not gonna do it. It's tempting, but... I mean, my instinct says it probably wasn't anything too special. But, you know, hopefully it wasn't something like god-awful. Yeah, I think I'm gonna take that out of the Let's Play category. And put that under, put that in the streaming itinerary sometime in the future. It's actually been kind of a hot minute since I've done any, Let's Play stuff. Mostly because, you know, I'm back to streaming again. I think I literally put in the description for my Let's Play channel, don't expect consistent uploads, or like regular uploads. So, there might have been a time where, there might have been a time where I could upload more frequently. But between that and streaming again, you know, it's kind of hard for me to kind of get the motivation to do both, you know? To watch this channel, you must agree to these terms. Goodness, it's been an hour already? Truly, I can yap harder than I had previously anticipated. What else can I yap about? I can yap about the best viewers on Stream Boo. That's the ticket. This stream is still brand new. Looks at 1 hour old stream. I definitely know you, Maple, are very keen on getting me to play some retro shooters, retro shmups on stream. I think the main thing... I think this is, like, the first time, like, on social media where, like, I posted a stream announcement, but I didn't have a graphic ready. I didn't make one ahead of time. 'Cause, like... the average, my average stream, you know, is usually gaming. Or... you know, I am a variety channel, and yet somehow, you know, yapping streams just never really fluidly come to me. There's always, like, something that needs to be attached to it, something that anchors me. Like, you know, the SCP readings, or like, maybe, like, video reaction streams or something. I think I've only done, like, 2 of those. They're genuinely the most underrated stream material. This joke is brand new. Looks at the number of times it's been made. God, that just reminds me of... I've been watching a lot of, Randy Feltface recently. He would post his... like, a few of his, full, comedy shows on his YouTube channel. For those who don't know, Randy Feltface is a puppet who does stand-up routines. And the puppeteering is very good. Like, Sesame Workshop quality. And perhaps better. Like, he's very good at it. He's very animated. And another thing I admire about him is that, he very skillfully, balances the line between, like, actually being kind of edgy, but, like, not offensive. I think out of the 4 total specials on his channel that I've seen, I think there were only a total of, like, 2 or 3 jokes that were just not great. You know, didn't really stick the landing. Probably not as inoffensive as he would have intended. But it's like the broader appeals of the shows, like, they're very entertaining. They're very good overall. I admire puppet comedians, but they're absolutely not my genre of stand-up. Well, it helps that, you know, for Randy, it's just the puppet. You know, you don't see the puppeteer. You don't even know his name. I assume he's also the one doing Randy's voice. In which case, like, he's still very funny. I think. But also at the same time, all of his shows... I mean, I can't imagine this is too uncommon for stand-up shows. But, like, all 4 of his specials are like anchored by a particular theme, a particular idea. And so, like, I think the one that's probably strongest in this case is Randy writes a novel. Because, like, it's not, like, a lot of it is comedy, but also it kind of takes a deep dive into, like, artistic pursuits and, like, authorship. And, like, it actually, it's a whole comedic routine that's tightly bound with a bundle of, like, actual insight. A lot of stuff that actually, like, makes you ponder afterwards. Like, he's really good at that. Like I said, Randy writes a novel is probably the strongest in that case. And then he has 3 other specials. The Book of Randicus is about religion. Purple Privilege, as the title would indicate, is about privilege. And then the most recent special, Feltopia, is about politics. But it's not quite political in the same way that other stand-up comedians would try to go about it. Like, I don't know how quite to elaborate on it. I think, like, instead of really discussing or talking about, like, the politics that are actually present in, like, our daily lives and such, I mean, he'll make, like, little hints and nods, little jabs here and there where they count, but most of it is framed on the premise of, like, what would he do if he was, like, the US president? And then, of course, like, there's other tangents that he goes on that, somehow managed to, like, wrap into it. The best art is timeless, and I guess that aims to do that? Kind of, yeah. I know, with Feltopia in particular, it's also not just, like, discussion of politics, per se. It's also, like, how politics plays in relation to comedy, or how some comedians might tackle, like, political matters, or otherwise. Another one that he, like, kind of outwardly describes is the way he tries to relate to how both politicians and comedians have a unique relationship between cause and effect. It's like, I don't know, I think it's really, really interesting. I've actually been tempted to, I'm not sure if I mentioned on stream, but, my dad has recently actually just, has written and had a book published. And so, part of me was tempted to take, like, Randy writes a novel and send that his way and see, like, what he might have thought of it. I don't know, it's like, on one hand, it's kind of that weird thing, because, like, my dad is Gen X, right? And he is kind of... He does kind of lean, like, center libertarian, if anything. You know, he's been surrounded by conservatives all his life, so, that's kind of where he leans, but he's not like a hardcore Republican. He has no party loyalty. I must go, I have duties to attend. Okay, cookware! Thanks for stopping by and hearing me yap. Yeah, he has no party loyalty, but, like, a lot of his beliefs are just built around what he was raised with, you know? And, of course, a lot of the comedy that he enjoys, well, not a lot of it, but some of it, he does have a relatively flexible sense of humor. That said, he doesn't really have too many, I guess, reservations when it comes to, like, you know, what would be considered more offensive in this day and age. You know, the faux edgy stuff. Well, not really edgy, even. It's like, the two comedians that I know he... Well... Oh boy. I'm trying to go back, trying to recall all the different comedians that he's watched or enjoyed in the past. One of them I introduced to him, you know, if only because I was in middle school and didn't know any better. And that comedian was Jeff Dunham, because, you know, Jeff Dunham was fucking huge when all of us were like 14. And then, you know, the other two comedians that I know he had on DVD that he's shared with me, stand-up show DVD things. One was Eddie Murphy, and the other one was Bill Cosby. Oh, God. Anyway, I don't know, I guess, yeah. Case in point, he's not too afraid to dip his toes into actually, like, kinda yikesy territory. But nevertheless, he still has a pretty flexible sense of humor. He's more of a goofball comedian more than anything else. Yeah. It's rough out here. But anyway, getting back on track. You know, I've been tempted to share that Randy Feltface routine with him to kind of get his impression of it. The only thing is, I know there is a spot in that special particularly where he talks about being a vegan, which I know my dad certainly is not. I mean, frankly, neither am I. Yeah, it's like I'm just overall kind of curious. If maybe kind of like me, where he might consider it a bit of a low point, but ultimately the overall package is still good. It's it's kind of like it's almost kind of like if you were given a silver spoon, but the tip of the like the tip of the handle bit was like made of fucking tungsten or some shit like that. It's like pure silver all the way down here. All the way right up until there. It's like just ignore the stain. Keep the food on the curved bit. I guess I don't know how I don't know how controversial this might be. I mean, I don't wager I would get biting the silver spoon that feeds me. Hello, Astra! I am pretty great. I am yapping quite a bit better than I was honestly anticipating. But hey, it's all I really wanted to do tonight, so... I was actually just about to shift topic a little bit. I'm not really sure how controversial of a stance this is. But I know when it comes to the topic of like veganism or vegetarianism, it's like I have kind of a bit of nuance with it, right? Like vegetarianism I have no issue with. Like you fucking eat those veggies. You just scarf them down all you want. Looks at Jay affectionately. And honestly, I could be persuaded to eat vegetarian, if only because I am aware of the fact that there are vegetarian alternatives to certain meat products. You know, I do enjoy meat. I enjoy hamburger, ground beef. I like fish. I mean, I said I like ground beef, but beef in general, Me eating vegetarian because the economy is in shambles, that's a perfectly valid reason too. I think... But yeah, it's like... Ground beef is good. I'm not much of a steak person. Or even like, you know, pork chops or stuff like that is just kind of to me. It's like I'll eat it, but it's not my favorite. But otherwise, like veggie burgers or like other similar meat alternatives, it's like if they're made of veggies, I don't give a shit. You know, I'll eat it anyway. I just care if it tastes good, you know? Which, looking at Stellar, I know Stellar absolutely has that magic to make the tastiest shit. And it's like, again, You know, vegetarianism, I don't care. You know, it's fine. For whatever reason. Like, I perfectly get it. You know, even from, like, especially from, like, an animal rights perspective, it's like, I do care about animal rights. I do care about the welfare of, you know, domestic animals as well as the wildlife across the world. Yeah! I love you! But when it comes to veganism, when it comes to being vegan, like my understanding of it, right, is like being vegan is by not like by abstaining from any products that come from animals, right? In which in that case, I'm kind of like it's like let's back up a little bit here. It's like, you know, abstaining from the consumption of meat, you know, that's whatever. Like, that's fine. I'm cool with that. Ultimately, when it ultimately I view it more as I must go now. My planet needs me. Your your math planet needs you. Bye-bye, Maple. Thanks for stopping by. Anyway. You know, abstaining from meat consumption. That's fine. Whatever. You know, I understand, because I know this actually comes up in Randy's routine. No! It comes up like particularly like where the proliferation of, you know, the like the consistent pervasiveness of, you know, carnivory in our society actually comes from, and it actually does come from belief. And that the particular belief is known as carnism, that, you know, basically there's a need to consume meat for a variety of reasons. And like any belief, you know, through the right framing or the right mindset, you can actually like shift your perspective out of it, right? You know, it's like, you know, the hard and fast, like, you gotta eat meat for X number of reasons. It's like, you know, we have the data, we have the numbers, like, there are suitable plant alternatives as far as nutrition goes. You know, and again, I just brought up, we can literally mimic meat with plant-based products, with crops. It's like, so it's whatever. But, you know, the fact is, it's a very old belief, and so... drums! It is a very old belief, and so, like any old belief system, it's harder to shake, around these times. And it's like, obviously... well, not obviously, but my view of it is less the fact that, is a little bit less the fact that, like, the consumption of meat itself is the problem. It's more so the problem that we live under a capitalist society that will exploit absolutely any avenue for profit. And the meat industry is no exception. And I think a lot of the bulk of the harm that comes with, you know, buying or consuming meat in this day and age is mostly just down to the fact, like, it is, you know, it's one of the avenues in which capitalism is destroying the world, you know? You know, the deforestation, the carbon emissions, like the variety of damage that's coming from it, not to mention all the, yeah, the typical, like, animal rights abuses that they don't give a shit to rectify. Because capitalism is an amoral system. You know, and I mainly think about it that way because, like, you know, maybe this is some of my bias showing based on my own upbringing, but I know going back to my dad, but more broadly my dad's family, we come from, or that side of my family has a bunch of game hunters, which I will also take a moment to I'll take a brief moment to explain, like, I have gone hunting and I know, like, what they've done for their hunting. We did not do trophy hunting. We were subsistence hunters. Or, like, we hunted certain animals first and foremost with the intention to eat them. You know, to put them on our plates. Sometimes when it comes to, like, smaller critters, like squirrels, it's kind of like local pest control, which... It's kind of a gray area when it comes to pest control, because the fact that, you know, animals like squirrels and, you know, other such creatures, like, they're small and they have very high fecundity. So it's like taking out just a few is hardly going to put a dent. But at the same time, just because a species of animal is incredibly commonplace and that they reproduce a lot, that's not inherently a reason to kill them. It's like, but again, you know, it mostly came down to, like, you know, if they're causing problems to property, in which case, I don't know, there's a lot of back and forth I can go on that. But ultimately, I don't find hunting as a practice entirely, I guess, morally repugnant. Trophy hunting, definitely. It's like, don't just kill an animal just because it looks cool. It's like, if you're gonna kill an animal, at the very least you can do is make sure, like, the bulk of its biomass doesn't go to waste, you know? Okay, so I'm also spending some time with friends of mine, so I'll have to lurk for now. Thanks for streaming. Okay, Astra. You have a great time with your friendos. But anyway. It's like, I also tend to look at it from, like, yeah, it's like, practices like trophy hunting or, heaven forbid, like 19th century fucking, like, just complete, like, utter like near annihilation of certain species just for the sake of, like, machismo or some shit. It's like, fuck all that. Fuck right off with all of that. It's like, if you're killing one animal to eat it, then fine. Fine. And honestly, well, again, there's a lot of back and forth I'm doing on this issue. I'm kind of wiffle-waffling. Or maybe maybe it's just acknowledging nuance. I don't know. But, white-tailed deer, for instance. Usually when you have people hunting deer, it's usually framed like you're hunting the bucks with the biggest antlers. And that's partially true. It's like, obviously, the more impressive antlers will get the most attention. But for all intents and purposes, I believe that, any trophies that could come from, deer or other similar animals should mostly be regarded as a bonus, not so much as the entire point. Kind of like the way my family's done it. Like, we mostly hunted deer for the venison, to take them to a meat processor to get different types of food products out of it. It's like we made sure to use as much of the deer as we feasibly could. It was an excuse to, to kind of get together with family and to, not just partake in the sport, but also to reap its benefits, So, there's that. Also, I admittedly only have certain surface level knowledge as far as a lot of indigenous American belief systems, but I know likewise it's like there's an equal, from what I've been able to tell, there's been equal parts like hunting as well as reverence for different animals. And a lot of the hunting practices of indigenous tribes is critical to the well-being of that tribe, critical to their culture. And it's like, if you have someone trying to, convince people that, doing absolutely anything against animal welfare is, abominable, and that, we should do absolutely nothing about it, it's like, that's kind of a form of erasure, isn't it? That's how I feel about it. Obviously I'm not indigenous, so, I'm open to being corrected, or I'm open to further information on the matter. I encourage it, honestly. I would love to know more. But overall, that's kind of the impression that I have right now. Anywho, backtracking to veganism broadly, I went over how, you know, as far as the meat industry goes, it's more so the fact that it's a capitalist industry that makes it a problem, more so than the actual consumption of meat itself. That's my belief on the matter. And, you know, by all rights, I do care about animal welfare, you know, animal rights, and I care about the environment and, you know, everything directly or tangentially related to such. But that does lead me to another point. I do care about animals. I do care about, you know, I do care about domestic animals being taken care of, being treated well, basically being given as optimal of a living experience as they can. Again, my impression of it might be, you know, I might be understanding it wrong, but my impression of veganism is abstaining from all animal products. But here's another thing with it. We have certain animals that we have domesticated over the span of several thousands of years, specifically to suit our needs, or specifically to, you know, aid us in some regard. I think the two chief among them would be cattle and sheep. And this domestication has literally impacted the way, like literally impacted their genetics, the way they've evolved through selective breeding, to such an extent that, you know, you take a look at milk cows. If a cow starts producing milk, if a dairy cow starts producing the vast quantities of milk that they've been bred to do, and through veganism you refuse to have any part of any dairy products or to do anything about it, that's going to involve not milking the cows, which is very, very bad for them. Like, they produce such quantities that if they don't get milked and milked properly, they will die. It will cause them pain, and they will die. In which case, you know, we do have to milk them. And that milk, we have to do something with it. And as long as some of us are not lactose intolerant, it's like, what? It's like, as it stands currently, like, what better solution is there? And then there goes to sheep. We have literally bred sheep to produce wool non-stop. These sheep will produce so much wool, like, if they are unsheared for a length of time, you know, if they're well overdue for a shearing, by that point, it's like all that wool can weigh them down. It can cause them to die of heat exhaustion. It also creates, like, it creates obstructions to their vision and their ability to feed. It also establishes, like, kind of a thriving potential hotspot for harmful bugs and parasites. Like, the sheep need to be sheared. They need to be sheared for their own well-being. And once again, as long as they're producing all this wool, something has to be done with it. Well, wool is great for making clothes. Warm clothes. Cozy clothes. Not to mention, if they're made 100% of wool, then they're completely biodegradable. 100%. And so, ultimately, you know, if the plan is to completely abstain from animal products overall, you know, when it comes to domestic livestock, you know, if that leads into the idea that they should be, I mean, I'm going to call it what it is, neglected, if that means they're going to be neglected for, you know, the sake of a moral high ground, well, that's just doing harm unto the animal. And isn't the whole point to avoid harming or doing undue cruelty unto the animals? It's like, I mean, likewise, you know, there are still plant alternatives. You know, definitely when it comes to food, there's a lot of variety for food. But then, like, in regards to, like, clothing, it's like, yes, there are plants that can produce material in order to make the clothes. You know, there's hemp, flax, linen, cotton. But it still doesn't change the fact, like, these animals were bred specifically for this purpose. And to deny them that purpose cold turkey, so to speak, like, it's not helping them. It's just cruel. So that's my overall impression on veganism. It's like, I perfectly understand why some people would kind of come into that mindset, but I guess I always want to be careful to go into it like as well informed as possible, you know? I mean, that just kind of goes for any subject, really. You want to know as much as possible and to weigh the different options. But, you know, nuance begets complexity, and complexity is hard. And people don't like hard. They don't like hard thinkies. I think in a weird way, to wrap this back around to video games, I know something I've actually been thinking about doing is actually playing a few hunting games. I think there's like a couple of hunting games that... I mean, I know there's one that I've already played as a kid and really enjoyed. Likewise, I know there's another hunting game that I have in my library that I haven't tried out yet, that I'm kind of tempted to stream. In which case, like, it's kind of similar to, like, Monster Hunter, you know, where it's not actually doing anything to real animals. It's like, so ultimately it doesn't really affect anything. I will give every disclaimer as to, like, exactly what I believe about hunting and its practices and, you know, what is and what isn't okay as far as, you know, that kind of practice and tradition goes. You know, I'm happy to do so. But I know that's something I kind of ponder a little bit. All of this to say, I'm not sure how much my dad would click with Randy's vegan monologue. Food for thought. Yuck, yuck, yuck. Oh yeah, I need to fucking take my drums. Too busy yapping about nominals. Thinking about their welfare, what about mine? Oh man, I gotta get a refill for some of these ones real soon. It was a whole mess trying to get those refilled. I don't want to go through that again. Well, now what? What should I yap about this time? I know I was kind of tossing the idea around of maybe pulling up some YouTube videos to just kind of watch or react to. I might be willing to do that. The question is, what the fuck video? Right now my recommendations are kind of loaded. Kind of loaded with a bunch of, admittedly, like, controversial or political stuff, because I tend to really keep up with that stuff. Mostly out of necessity. Yeah, right now I'm just kind of scrolling through the main page. Just seeing if anything stands out. I also gotta be careful. Make sure I don't pull up anything that might, like, trigger a copyright strike or or break TOS. I don't know! Whew. It would also help if, like, if it's not, like, a fucking hour long. Or even, like, maybe a half-hour long video. But there seem to be a lot of them. Because I'm definitely one of those people that will, like, literally just turn on certain, like, video essays while I do other shit or play games in the background. I don't know. I know some streamers will just, like, flat out share or, like, watch and react to, like, full episodes of, like, fucking Kitchen Nightmares or Mythbusters or some stuff that, you know, now there are full episodes on YouTube and stuff. I don't know if I want to do that, though. Heh. I don't know, nothing really draws my attention. I mean, for all I know, maybe this will probably just be a shorter stream. Already almost at 2 hours, wow. I did manage to fulfill the preservation of my beverage enough so I could take my meds. I do know I was intending on like, I did do a little bit of a OC-tober last month. I only got to 10 pieces before I ran out of steam. I know there were, like, a couple that I had ready in my whips. 3, actually. I suppose I could kind of go over a few of them. Or more specifically, like, because I don't want to go through all the trouble of, like, pulling up every single heckin' piece that I did and finished, like, all up on stream if it's just gonna be, one, if it's not gonna be a stream that's specifically dedicated to doing such, and 2, if I'm never gonna pull them up ever again. These are the problems. But I suppose the least I could do is explain a little bit about some of the characters I actually picked. Because I know what I wanted to do... Readjust my seating real quick. What I wanted to do was through this entire month, or the entire last month, I wanted to do little blurbs about all the characters in my Kakaine project, which is basically my version of Toho, for better or worse. What's interesting is that there are basically like two separate versions of the series. It's like, the main difference is that, you know, version 1 is older, and then version 2, the current version, is newer, and there is still some stuff that carried over, but there are certain aspects of the series that I definitely felt like changing. Well, shit, just as I'm getting ready to dive into some of the lore I've created, where I yap about my precious characters, Donut Steel. Well, suddenly I have to piss. So I guess I will BRB real quickie while I go pee-pee. Ta-da! I'm back! Okay. So I was about to explain the whole Kakaine deal. I think it would probably be more interesting if I mostly talked about version 1. If only because, like, I think it would do good to effectively communicate, like, what all I am wanting to change between the first and second version, the first and current version. But I will quickly say, the second version, as it stands, is still kind of a work in progress as far as world building goes. All we really need to know, or all that I will really reveal, is that Kakaine takes place in a realm separate from ours, effectively a fantasy world, where magic is abundant. You know, it's very abundant, and raw magic is just kind of a natural phenomenon, for better or for worse. And there are a myriad of ways to channel such magic to accomplish different feats. I actually made, there's this program that I've used for a little while now called Fantasia Archive. It's basically, World Anvil, but with offline functionality. It's not as robust as World Anvil, but it is free, and, you know, it can still do a lot as far as organizing and creating articles for, like, a world-building project. And I created one for the current version of Kakaine, in which case, like, there are locations and, like, certain settings, but I'm still piecing together exactly how they all relate to one another. I mean, in some regards, I kind of want to keep it intentionally vague. You know, just to kind of add a little bit of, a little air of mystery to it. Or, you know, create room for speculation. But otherwise, like, the world building is still a work in progress. Meanwhile, version 1 was a little more definitive. I actually created something of, like, a proper world map. Well, more like a third of a world map. A third of the world, because, like, the majority of the stories that were to take place there take place in only one continent. But ultimately, my idea, or the premise, the original premise of Kakaine was essentially, and keep in mind, I thought of most of this while I was still young, naive, not particularly as well versed in certain tropes or ideas as I am now. But the overall premise was, there was this fantasy world, right? And in this fantasy world, there were 3 continents. One represented, well, yeah, the first continent represented a bunch of, like, Western mythology or mythological entities or some such things. The second continent represented Eastern mythology and entities and similar. And then the third continent was like a neutral zone. And pretty much all of the stories took place in that neutral zone. I didn't exactly I didn't exactly phrase this. Well, I would describe it like the western and the eastern continents were supposed to be in this big war against each other. A war over what exactly? I never figured out. I never properly explored. Could have been for a variety of reasons. I don't know. But I just knew I wanted them to be at war with each other. I thought it was an interesting premise, you know, like East myth versus West myth. Kind of like a broader scale Godzilla versus Kong in a way. But then you would have like the third continent, which all the stories actually took place and for all intents and purposes was a neutral zone where you could encounter anyone from anywhere, essentially. And that it was basically a sanctuary for anyone who didn't want to get involved in the war. But anyway, kind of the idea was, you know, being a fantasy world populated by every manner of mythological creature or being. The idea was, like, in the midst of this war, one of the biggest casualties was the toll on actual human life. So much so that humans were have basically been rendered at high risk of complete extinction. Like, there are very few left. And one of the protagonists, Asselin, is one of those humans. And she is being cared for? Not exactly. She's living with a woman named Shizuka, who is the deuteragonist. Shizuka is a Tsukumogami, kind of a possessed object yokai, and she's specifically a living embodiment of the Akamanto's blue cape. For those unaware, there's this Japanese urban legend where, you know, of this ghost or like spiritual malevolent presence or demon or thing or something called the Akamanto. And what the Akamanto's deal is that if you encounter them, they will ask you, do you want the red cloak or the blue cloak? And if you picked the red cloak, you would be decapitated and the blood would soak all the way down your back like a red cloak. If you picked the blue cloak, you would be strangled until your face turned blue and you died. So there's no good choice. What you're supposed to say is, what I want is your life, and then you run away. Or, like, the Akamanto would, like, leave you alone or something. So essentially, I put the Akamanto in my world, and I made one of their highest profile victims basically the daughter of a powerful witch, and when her daughter was killed, she cast a spell on the red cloak and the blue cloak to come to life and to be able to act independently of the Akamanto's will. Now, the Red Cloak managed to stay loyal, but the Blue Cloak, Shizuka, decided to run away and seek independence and do things her own way, you know? And ultimately, both of them share the unique ability that, anybody who comes into physical contact, or maybe skin contact? I'm not sure. But anybody, like, if you touch the red or blue cloak that they wear over their bodies, behind, whichever, if you touch them, you would die in several possible ways, mostly divvied up between whether it's the red cloak or the blue cloak. If it was the red cloak, then you would die in some way that was extremely graphic and violent and bloody. But if you touched the blue cloak, you would die painfully and slowly and in agony. So not exactly a quick or pleasant death. Basically the difference between a quick or a slow death. That's mainly what differentiated them. Anyway, Aslin lives with Shizuka, the Blue Cloak, and they kind of have, like... Their dynamic is kind of similar to... Because not only did I take inspiration from Toho for this series, I also took inspiration from Lenin Project. Their relationship is very similar to Yabusame and Tsubakura, where one is very, like, cheerful and happy-go-lucky and impulsive, which would be Aslin, and then the other one is more logical, calculative, and reserved, and also more snarky. That would be Shizuka. So that would be that. I guess... There is more, I also have to go. It's sleepy time. Have fun yapping in with the rest of the stream, love. Okay, Jay. I love you, boyfie, so much. And your math brain. As far as the stories that I actually wanted to tell for Kakaine Project, there's actually not a lot of difference between version 1 and 2. I think some of the main differences mostly come with the featured characters in each story. Like, let me look back. Because I had quite a few stories in mind. And I even, like, divvied them up the same way that, like, Zune would kind of divvy up his different stories in Toho. So... the actual number of stories that I actually had in mind was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11? I had 11 stories in mind. But of course some of them are labeled, instead of, like, I would sometimes call them side stories. Because one thing I wanted to do with the series that Toho hasn't really done is just kind of move or shift or mix around the role of protagonist for certain stories. So basically, any story where the protagonists are explicitly not Aslan or Shizuka, I would qualify as a side story. And when I call something a side story, it would be numerically labeled differently. So the first three stories are, main stories. So they go 1, 2, 3. But then after 3, there's a side story. And so I labeled it 3.5. That doesn't necessarily mean that it takes place immediately after, like, its respective game. As far as, like... I mean, maybe for the first series, the first version, that's kind of how it was. Like, I did intend for it to all be in chronological order. This time around, I think I'm willing to play around with time and the chronology of certain events, especially with one side story. So essentially, yeah, I mentioned, like, the biggest shift with the story was less the stories themselves and more so the characters that are involved in the stories. So the first story is basically about Aslan after being, properly trained to defend herself against any would-be offenders out in the world, all the various nasties and monsters and terrible people, It's like Shizuka kind of taught her a few things about, like, combat and how generally, like, duels and combat would work in the setting. Ultimately, definitely in the first version, it was fully intended just to be like a bullet hell, the same way Toho and Lennon is. But moving on to the current version, I think I'm more willing to sort of experiment with certain genres depending on the story. Like, some of them might still be bullet hell shooters, but others could potentially be, like, in the style of, like, JRPGs or something. Or other times it might be platformers or something. I don't know. I'm not a game creator or game designer. I'm not very well skilled with that stuff. But as far as intention goes, that's kind of where my head would be. So the first game would be a bullet hell. It's basically, now that Aslan is all trained up and ready to go, basically fully ready to fend for herself and see what's out there, because she's been, like, coddled most of her life because she's a human. I forgot to mention, well, no, I didn't forget to mention. It's something I might share later. So basically, Aslan is set loose just to see whatever the fuck is happening in the world. And apparently, like, there's... in the first version, it's like supposedly there was rumors of, like, this contest of, like, someone on top of a local mountain that, like, if somebody managed to topple or, like, defeat whoever was on top in a duel, like, some grand prize was meant to be given. This wasn't a real contest. It was just a trick, but I'll get to that. Aslan was like, hey, that sounds cool. all this time, Shizuka is basically, like, so cynical of, like, Aslan's abilities that she basically just tails her the whole way, just to make absolutely sure. Well, one, I mean, the first reason is, you know, to come to her aid if she needed to. She would never admit that, though. You know, she would mostly attest to the second reason, is to make and that's making sure Aslan herself doesn't cause trouble. Doesn't start making enemies right out of the gate. So basically, Aslan is just a free spirit trying to do whatever she feels compelled to do. Shizuka is just trying to catch up. Which is kind of a reversal of the first Lennon game. Because it's Tsubakura who comes out in first, and it's Yabusame trying to chase them down. Anyway. Encounters would include Ariel Zhdanov, and Alkonost, whose songs or voice would cause amnesia. That would have been... The plan was, basically, when you picked a character, so to speak, the first boss was basically just the other selectable character. So if you picked Aslan, the first boss would be Shizuka. You know, she's basically making sure, like, okay, if you beat me, I'll let you loose. That kind of deal. And it's the same way... it's the same way with, like, if you play Shizuka, then you're up against Aslan as the first boss. But then Ariel would be the second boss. The third boss would be different depending on which character you picked. For Aslan, it would be... Well, both of these bosses are sisters, known as the Grondalues. They are Grindylows that like to hunt down and kill any unaware passersby. In which case, one of their favorite delicacies is human meat. So, like, the one who encounters Aslan is Pegrin, who is the faster and, like, kind of the more principled of the sisters. That's not saying too much, but, you know, she has, like, at least some code of honor. Likewise, for Shizuka, she would go up against the other sister, Verdentia, who is a lot more brutal, a lot more violent, a lot more cantankerous. The biggest difference between them is that Pegrin actually goes out, like swims through river currents to actually seek out prey herself, whereas Verdentia stays in their home in a lake to wait for prey to come to her, you know. And so, after that, there would be the fourth boss, which would be Ekikaiga, who is a type of yokai, well, quote, yokai. It's actually a type of crab. It's a crab species known as a hikigani, or a hikigani crab, and they're very distinctive because supposedly there's a legend that basically, if you see these crabs in real life, you see the backs of their... Was it the backs of their shells? Or was it the underside? I forget. But on one side, their shell looks like a face. It just looks like a straight up human face. And the legend, supposedly, is that these crabs are possessed by, like, fallen warriors of war and samurais and stuff. And I basically took that and basically just made it an excuse to create, like, sort of a yokai or humanoid-defied, anthropomorphized version of it. It's like, you know, they very much have a functional face, but also their entire head is still just a crab. It's still just a whole ass crab. Anyway, that would be the fourth boss. The fifth boss, the semi-final boss, would have been Yagna. Yagna is a resident of the mountain that, you know, supposedly this contest rumor is, kind of being framed against. She's basically like the main line of defense for the actual target. And basically she's sort of like... She started off as an elf, but then through reasons relevant to her backstory, she basically got ascended to a higher role. And so, like, what I put as under her profile, like what kind of species or like race she was a Weissfrauen, which it basically just German for white woman. It's meant to, in the original context, it's meant to be like a ghostly sort of deal, like almost like a specter or poltergeist. I kind of made my own version of it, essentially as like a heavenly servant woman, sort of like in that sense. She's very flirty, and honestly, she's kind of one of my favorite characters that I've made in the whole series. I love Yagna. I think she's the character I've actually drawn the most. But then the final boss is actually Yagna's husband, Newman. Newman is a tutelary god of the sun, and he has a shrine on the top of this mountain that, for various lore reasons, I mean, it's kind of intrinsic to being a tutelary god, which, if you're not familiar, a tutelary god is basically just a minor deity that kind of rules over a specific location, and most importantly, cannot leave. They cannot leave that area. In Newman's case, or at least for tutelary gods in Kakaine, in this world, tutelary gods could leave, but it's a very, very bad idea if they do. Basically, they lose the bulk of their godly powers if they do so. But nevertheless, the idea was, like, the rumor was, hey, you gotta defeat this sun god, defeat this sun god for some vague, congratulatory prize or some such, which extends onto the extra boss I don't know if I would have called it the extra boss, but it's basically the same role. The extra boss of the first story would be Talarena, who is a Minokawa, which is like a big bird-like dragon thing from, I think it was Filipino mythology. And its biggest claim to fame is that it is a bringer of solar eclipses. And Tala's whole deal is they have sort of this one-sided rivalry with Newman. Well, actually, they have like a deep-seated like sense of competition against the sun itself. You know, so they have like this long life mission of trying to extinguish any like respect or faith for the sun, which a lot of folks, a lot of inhabitants naturally are inclined to think very highly of the sun, because the sun historically gives life, you know? It brings warmth, light, it helps the plants grow, you know? And basically Tala just wants to plunge the world into eternal darkness, and for people to like it. But, you know, the sun is a very big and powerful thing in that regard, and so she's forced to kind of go one step at a time. Tala's pronouns are they, she, by the way. Sometimes I end up slipping up and saying she, but, like, you know, they're my character. Usually they would prioritize they. Makes them sound more powerful, more imposing. So yeah, basically, Tala is the one responsible for spreading the rumor, trying to get people to cause shit against Newman to kind of whittle him down. Because, like, the idea was that Newman is only active during the daytime, because duh. And then during the nighttime, he basically retreats into, like, his shrine or, like, altar kind of deal. And in this state, he's basically invincible. It's like, well, invincible but ethereal, essentially. Like, yeah, you can't hurt him, but at the same time, he can't do anything to you in that state. Kind of like D&D ethereal plane type of shit. Or like ethereal shift? What was that spell called? Anyway, that's how that works. And so basically Tala's plan was, you know, while Newman is active in the daytime, you know, they would send a bunch of challengers to repeatedly challenge him, and kind of chisel down his defenses bit by bit by bit, kind of tire him out, before the sunset. And, you know, when he absolutely can't go on any further, that's when they would make the finishing blow. That's when they would swoop in and like, ha-ha, I have vanquished you! But then, the protagonist fights Tala, and then that doesn't happen. That's basically the gist of the first story. It's virtually unchanged between versions. Man, I could easily yap off about all the other stories. But honestly, that might be... I might save that for a stream in and of itself. Just completely info-dumping about this world and the lore and the characters and their backstories and their histories and the stories and side stories. And there's also one instance of what I would call a supplementary story, in this case, it would be 7.8, and it's actually the 11th and most recent story that I had in mind. It basically, what I had in mind for that was essentially something similar to Toho's, like, Shoot the Bullet or Double Spoiler, where basically you play as this character that conducts interviews with a bunch of the characters that, like, the player or the viewer, the audience, would have been familiarized with up until that point, and basically get even further information about them. But of course, these interviews would have to manifest as battles or duels, and it would be like one by one by one. Like, each character would have a single duel, because there would be several characters by the time that supplementary story would have to take place. But I know an alternative way to frame it would also be similar to, like, what could be regarded as, like, the Toho Encyclopedia series. So, like, Perfect Memento in Strict Sense, Symposium of Post-Mysticism, Alternative Facts in Utopian Vision? I don't know. But anyway, that's kind of the way it would work. At least in an alternative to that. Because, like, Shoot the Bullet is basically, for Toho, like, Shoot the Bullet is just, like, a gamified version of Bohemian Archive in Red, which is basically just Aya doing similar activities, just kind of going around and conducting interviews with various characters, both in the book and in the game. It's just that in the game, you're catching photos, you're taking photos of the Danmaku patterns that the different characters have, you know? And then Bohemian Archive is, like, the actual character interactions, you know, the nitty-gritty. I would love to keep yapping about my other stories, but I don't know, there's a lot to go over, honestly. I know, in spite of the fact that, I wasn't able to complete the OC-tober prompt to completion, like, honestly, I think... Wait a minute. I actually finished 10, but there are 3 still in my whips. Because, like, the main thing I was doing, if you've seen my OC-tober stream last month, the one that I did, not only was I drawing the characters, but I was also writing, like, little micro stories to accompany them. So the micro stories actually go up to 13. They go up to 13. But as far as the full completed pieces go, that's 10. That's just 10. I'm very proud of the last one I did, though. I put a lot of effort into that one. It's basically about a character who is basically my equivalent of Seija, where basically They are the absolute pinnacle of, like, inversion, reversals, contrarianism, you know, like, everything's topsy-turvy, flipped around, all that fun stuff, and I got to get really deep into the expression of that. I think I listed off everything that I did for that piece to Junie and Jay. Yeah, here. So all the things I inverted for the piece, as far as the picture or the art itself, I only really inverted 3 things. Those were the colors, and then I did a horizontal mirror and a vertical mirror. And that's it. As far as the story, though, the micro story, that's where a lot more effort went into it. So I shifted the alignment of the sentences and the paragraph lines to the right instead of to the left, because those of us who are used to reading English are adjusted to reading from left to right. No. Yeah, left to right. Left to right, and so the words have a left alignment. So I shifted it to the right. I spelled every single word in the story backwards. The placement of the capitalized letters was also reversed. So instead of the first letter of the first word in a sentence, it was the last letter of the last word. With certain exceptions, I think. And that was only with, like, the scarce pieces of, like, direct dialogue. Or, like, dialogue statements that I wrote in the story. Mostly just for the sake of me. So that was inverted. I also inverted the paragraph order. So it went from the end to the start. I inverted the sentence order, kind of. It's more like I inverted the placement of the line breaks between each paragraph. And then the last thing I inverted, which honestly, nobody would have ever figured out if I didn't just say it outright. I actually flipped the use of first and second person pronouns in the story. So whenever it says you, it actually, or whenever a character says you, they're actually referring to themselves. Or when they say I, they're actually referring to the other person. And then I also explained to the both of them that there's this fun little trick that I like to do every once in a while whenever I write stuff like this. Whenever I write stuff where, like, I flip the spelling of the words backwards, what I don't do is flip the order of the words. So the spelling is backwards, but not the placement that the words are in. Because most of the time, when people read words that are spelled backwards, they assume that the entire sentence is backwards. So if they took the whole sentence and flipped it around, they would get the right spelling, but now the order of the words is flipped. And so, you know, if they ever, like, saw that and they would kind of tell me, like, what the fuck? Like, Like, why did you write this all weird? What did you flip to make this so weird? And I'm like, I didn't flip that, you did. And it's very fun to pull out on occasion. I know I actually have, like, a true version of that particular piece that I haven't posted yet to the various Discord servers that I've shared with. But ultimately, I'm really proud of that final story. It's very fun. It's a very fun character to write for. And yet, it's actually a character that's currently in, like, my creative shelves right now as far as the wider Kakaine series goes. It's like, I have at least one specific purpose for them, for kind of like the semblance of a story I have in mind, but I haven't fully written out. So essentially, they're basically a character in waiting. They are a character that exists outside of any particular story at the moment. And there are other characters like that. Like the protagonist of the supplementary story. The one supplementary story. But anywho. That's a little bit of exploration into my Kakaine project. Again, there's so much more I could go into depth over, but, you know, I don't want to... I mean, I know this is a yapping stream, but, like, I don't know. It just doesn't quite feel in the spirit right now. I'm not really feeling the vibes. Maybe some other time. Maybe I can put together, like, a PowerPoint presentation. God. There's a whole ass, like, slideshow presentation for fucking... for fucking, world-building analysis I did for the ALF TV show that I still haven't finished. Like, all the research and stuff is done. All the notes I needed to take are all there. I just need to make the slides. I also feel like it might do better as, like, a scripted video, almost. I don't know, I'm kind of juggling with it. Maybe that's what I'll work on for the next art stream. I don't know, there's lots of stuff I could work on, honestly. Like my background, for instance. Look at this shit. I have used this same background from the very start. I mean, it's good, it's functional, but honestly, the whole time it was only meant to be a placeholder. I definitely should work on the revamp of my little Froggy space. Also, I have a bit of a confession to make. But keep in mind, you know, I started streaming in 2021, and so the situation was a little bit different back then. But you see that the lake in the background outside the window there? Unfortunately, I have to confess, it is AI generated. But again, I made this in 2021. So the attitude towards like AI generation was not nearly, it's like it wasn't seen as problematic to nearly the same extent that it is now. So it was mostly done out of naivety more so than actual like endorsement. I guess if anything, if nothing else, that would perfectly justify why I should definitely make a new background. Absolutely, definitely, positively. But oh, it's so much work. You'll have to carry me through it, Lily Pals. Please! I beg you! My ADHD is very cruel! Well, we are coming up to the 3-hour mark, and I think I have yapped just about as much as I wanted to. There were a few chuckles. I got a bit deeper into some of my beliefs on particular subjects. Hello, Coney JG. You have come at somewhat of an inopportune time. I was actually thinking of wrapping up. But it's great to see you pop by. God, lots of yapping tonight. This just kind of leaves me wondering what I might do for next stream on Monday. Or whichever day. Let me think. I know I said I wanted to play more Control. But also, I want to play more Iceborne. And get further in that game. I would like to finish Amnesia. I don't know exactly how far into the game I am. My instinct is telling me maybe, like, somewhere around, like, the halfway mark. I couldn't say for sure. But I want to do it. I want to do it and diddly do it. And then there's also the possibility of me streaming fucking Jaws Unleashed. That would be... There's also, like, a few graphics I feel like I still need to make. They're not that difficult to make, but there's one in particular. And that's for any potential retro game streams. I want to have, like, a little pixelized avatar for me to place right onto the promo graphic. And I guess I'm not entirely sure how to go about doing that. I don't have Ace Sprite, do I? No. No, I do not. And, like, I want to keep it simple. You know, I don't want to, like, pull up a fucking, like, RPG Maker character maker, you know? It's like, I don't need too many, like, intricate details. I just want a simple, almost like first gen like Pokemon like trainer overworld sprite kind of vibes. We'll see. I'll try to figure something out. Yeah, otherwise... Otherwise, maybe I should make a graphic for yapping streams in the future. How about that, huh? That would be useful, huh? Always be prepared, huh?